Hi, it's Globe from Verbal Tea, and today we have another and our last segment of our Money and Success series. Today we are covering generational wealth.
Thank you, God.
This episode is jam packed with some really good conversation. So I'm not going to hold you guys long for an intro, but I just wanted to tell you guys what inspired me to go into this. Lately, I've been seeing a lot of things about grind culture, and Monique specifically, in her interview with Shannon Sharp, she discussed how she was a trailblazer and how her pursuit of rising to fame, she had to make a lot of sacrifices that impacted her son. Later on, it went viral, her and her son going back and forth, and we got a glimpse of just how he suffered. We don't know how much he suffered, but we can see that now he's healing because she wasn't able to pour into him the way he needed. When I think about generational wealth, I think about that. I think about how is someone supposed to balance being a first time generation hustler and being a parent, being a mother, being a father, being a brother, sister, and a person, and how we need to find a balance. How a lot of us don't make the rules. And that's honestly what inspired this entire series. I am so happy to be able to discuss this with you guys. I hope that it inspires you. I'm Globe, and this is Verbal Tea. Hey, welcome back to Verbal Tea. We've been discussing money and finance this month. First, we discussed our childhood memories and how that shaped our relationship with money. The second week, we discussed financial independence. And last week, we discussed finances and the philosophy of it from the perspective of a funeral director. This week, we are taking it to another level and discussing generational wealth. And I have an amazing guest to discuss this with. This guest is a creative. They have their own podcast called A1 Lifestyle, and they also are a music artist. In addition to that, they are a parent and they are finance savvy. They've got it all. They are multi tiered when it comes to a perspective on this. They decided to journal with me and we're going to discuss it. I am so happy to introduce to you A1 Lifestyle.
Hello, thank you so much for that amazing introduction.
Hi, I'm so glad that you're here. Welcome to the tea party.
Thank you so much for having me. I love the name, by the way.
Thank you very much. Before we get started, I like to ask all of my guests this. What is your relationship with journaling?
Mm. Fairly new to it. Fairly new to it. I believe it is something that has helped me throughout my course of self love and healing. I started last year when I first started going to therapy. Growing up as a
Mm,
male, a black male, my whole life. Journaling was one of those things that was always pre- prescribed to me as something that women do. My sister, they
mm,
always bought her journals for Christmas and birthdays, and she always had different types of journals, and I never got one.
oh.
Then I went to therapy, and that's what my therapist recommended. They was like, "Do you ever journal?" And I was like, "No, I write music." That's like kind of my journaling. It was like, "Well, you should try to take some time, to reflect on your day through journaling, take notes
Mhm.
about your day, and just really write about it." And so that's kind of been my experience with it. Day to day, I take time to write notes, which I use the iPhone notes, which is kind of my daily journal that I use. So I do write about my life, write about the things that's going on, my thoughts, my ideas, emotions, and even in relationships, I use it as a way to, I have scripts on my phone that I'll answer throughout the day, like what's something that she does that makes me happy, what's one thing that
Oh.
she does that makes me sad, and then I'll kind of write about it as the day goes on.
Wow, I love that. Okay, the relationship one is another level right there. I really like that. So you help you keep perspective with your relationships as well.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
there's a lot to be said about daughters having journals and getting journals every year. but, son's just getting video games and things like that.
Exactly. Yes, ma'am.
That was definitely the dynamic for me growing up. So I can definitely understand why it took you a little longer. And I just want that to be a lesson and motivation for anyone who is parenting. Get your son a journal as well.
Amen.
Please,
Amen.
please get it and don't read it. Don't read
Let them have it.
it.
Let them
Let
feel
them
free
have
to just express
it.
itself in that journal.
Yes, and therapy. Therapy is a blessing, and I am so glad that our generation is being more vocal and more progressive about it being for everyone and there being no shame in it. Because it's more than just talking about your problems. They give you tools.
Exactly. Like my therapist gave me a lot of tools, outside of just being able to talk to someone without a biased opinion. Just gave me tools on what I can use outside of therapy. Breathing is one of those things I've learned
Oh,
through
yes.
therapy as well. Breathing is something that I feel like I started to wake up a lot once I started breathing more. The more I breathe, the less I talk, the more I was like, okay, I can see a little bit better now. I can
It's
think clearly.
it's so simple, but it's something we take for granted. And just being aware of your body, um, being aware of how you're holding it, and being able to identify when it's stressed. Just and it's so simple, so simple. I am
Yes, ma'am.
I'm so glad that you talked about that because I'm like, they give you tools. You don't have to just keep going and just telling your life story. They legit give you tools. It's not just a venting session. It's a tool.
Exactly. It's a lot more than I thought it was gonna be when I first signed up. When I went, I was thought, "Oh, I'm gonna go in here and just tell this person how I feel," lay on the couch and be comfortable, even though I did it virtually, but, it was like, she gave me a lot of useful tools, that I use every day, that I use throughout my life.
Yeah, you thought it would be, and how does that make you feel?
Exactly, that's exactly what I thought was gonna happen.
Instead, it's like a mirror. The whole session is a mirror. You really just get to see yourself in a deeper layer of yourself.
Exactly.
Well, I'm sorry about going off on that tangent, but that is the beauty of journaling because it's a tool too. It's a tool for you to let out your feelings. Because personally, for relationships for me, I have an attachment style that's not that secure, and that's just from my childhood and whatnot.
Mhm.
So I write out my feelings to see. I have to physically see it. Like, do I really feel this way? What is the root of this feeling? Is it really worth a conversation when they're not organized yet? So I have to
Mm.
organize my feelings before I express them. Otherwise, it can get really crazy for me and overwhelming for me. And then I'm always like, I need a moment. I need a moment. I didn't make sense of it. Give me just a moment. And journaling helps me with that.
I'm glad you
Mhm.
said that. I feel like you don't have to apologize. I feel like journaling is an important part, especially when it comes to growth. And you said something that I take to heart nowadays, and I feel like a lot of us should look more into it. Is being able to organize our thoughts first before we
Mm.
just let it out, because it may prevent us from saying things that we really didn't want to say.
Right, and then you're like, "That's not what I meant. I meant this."
Exactly, and there's out there unorganized.
Yes, and that's why I wanted to do verbal tea to, challenge us to organize our thoughts even about casual things like trending
Mhm.
topics and things like that, so that when we're posting online, we can actually have conversations instead of sparring matches because that is what happens.
It's a lot of TikTok.
Yes.
It's like
It
a sparring match over there.
Yes, and then just being able to acknowledge if you're not in a place to discuss it. Like, if you are in a "I said what I said" mind state, that's fine, that's your right, but okay, maybe you don't need to say it here.
Most
Maybe.
certainly. Most certainly. You might wanna keep that in.
Yeah, or even say, "Hey, I'm not in a space to talk about it, like, I just purged, but I'm not in the space to go back and forth about this, I'm sorry. No hard feelings, I just know I'm not gonna handle it well." That's me.
Knowing your boundaries.
Absolutely, and sometimes I'm too late, but at least just when you feel it, acknowledge it and don't put it on the person.
And I feel like that's where that breathing comes in, during
Mhm.
conversations, when we take a second to just And I've had to tell people
Mhm,
that as well. I'll have conversations with someone and then I'll breathe while they're talking. They're like, "You all right? You good?" I'm like,
mhm.
"Yeah, I'm just breathing so I can make sure my ears are open. I'm not trying to think of a response. I'm just
Mm.
taking in everything you're saying and allowing my thoughts to relax instead of, being on edge, ready to like, as soon as you finish, I'm gonna go, like, no, let me just take a second. You think through your thought fully, and I'm gonna do the same.
I love that. You try to make yourself a sponge, you know?
Yes, ma'am.
Because people say, "Oh, listen to understand," but no one really talks about what that looks like, and it looks like in the moment challenging yourself just to focus on what they're saying. That's it. That's it.
Exactly. Especially in the world where, there's so much information, so many voices thrown at us on a daily, just through
Mhm.
social media. It's like we're receiving so much information that when we get into those intimate conversations, it's kind of hard to really channel that focus in whenever we're thinking about, okay, I just seen 30 different videos before this. That's the
Mhm.
cat jumping over the moon and stuff. It's like it's like wow, this person is, really trying to connect with you.
That's so true, and then there's the other scary not scary thing, but the challenging thing about social media is that we have access to just say our immediate thoughts right there instantly. There's no filter it has to go through. We see something and I'm like, "Hey, you can save it." Sometimes I'll save a post so that I can like talk to my husband about it. I can write about it and come back and talk my stuff. And I'm sure that's good for engagement for whoever I follow because I'm it's bringing it back up days later. But it brings another level to an honest layer.
Mhm.
But okay, this is a tangent, but it's also connected. It's also
Yes, ma'am.
connected. So I really appreciate you being so honest about it. It is so refreshing and motivating to see Black men in therapy, because they need it, they deserve it, and the world would be a better place if they had a safe space to release their feelings. And that's a whole other tangent I can go
And
on.
definitely, I agree with that because Black man healing is something that's wonderful. It's something that's good, and I feel like it's something that people don't realize. Black men have already done for years through music. It's
Mm,
just they don't take the time to really listen to what these men are saying. It may not be the best. It may not be, what sounds good, but it's people, venting. Like that's what a lot of people do, they vent through music and they tell you how they're feeling. Like that's why I love music. Music is a passion of mine because that's how I vent.
mhm,
But we live in a world where people hear this music and then don't really take the time to listen to the words because they hear certain parts of a song or they hear the music and they just bop to it or they like, oh, I don't really like that. That's gangster music or gangster rap. But it's like, no, if you take a second to listen, like a lot of people like will Rod Wave, for instance, they're like, oh, why is he so, why is he has all this money, he's rich, why is he always emotional? I'm like, well, if you actually listen to his music, you would understand
mhm,
why he's always emotional. He's still losing family members, losing friends, still
mhm.
going through different things and different struggles. So
That's true.
yeah.
It's a portal and it's the voice of a generation. And I'm getting older, so I now am just hyper aware of it with my nephews because my kids just like trolls right now. They're young, but my nephews they like that music that I can't really identify with. But I know that's their voice. Our
Mhm.
music was our voice, and so I can't say I don't like it because they're connecting with it. That's their voice. Our kids are sad, man. They are.
Exactly, and this is what we're going through. This is what we're living through. Just because some people want to turn a blind eye to what's really happening in society, like no, this is happening. Like this is like it's in a song, but if you really walk outside and open your eyes for a second, you'll see
Mhm.
it's happening outside too.
It is. It is. And I think this is a good segue into generational wealth because understanding that the music that we don't really like that gives us the ick as older people, that's the voice of the generation. It makes us uncomfortable because we raised that generation. We built the foundation for them. And
Mhm.
so it is just a call to action for us. And a lot of people don't want to look at how they can improve things and how they relate to the youth. And
Amen.
and it's uncomfortable. It really is, but it is
And I love
absolutely necessary.
And I love how you take accountability because that's one thing I try to do as well is, take accountability for what's happening. A lot of people try to blame the youth, but it's like, no, you got to look up. We got to look up first of what they
Mm,
did with the money, what they did with the funds, what they did with the resources and assets they were, freely given or easily given,
mhm.
and how it didn't trickle down. It just kind of disappeared.
Yep. We ask, "Oh, where are the parents?" About everything else. The kid is dressed a certain way. Where are the parents? Okay, that applies to everything. Where were the
Exactly.
parents?
Now when it come to money, oh, you got to go to work. Wait a minute, where's the parents?
Listen. Exactly. So I'll let us segue into just discussing more of generational wealth. So all of the prompts that I gave you
Mhm.
to write on were centered around that. Which one did you spend the most time with, or which one stuck out to you the most?
All of them. I actually wrote to
Yeah,
all of them.
I believe it. They're all connected. So once you start one, you start on the other. Because I just wrote, the way I come up with these questions is I just have the topic and then I just write.
Mhm.
And then I reread and I'm like, what questions did I answer in this that I would love to hear other people's answers to? And so I circle it and I'm like, this is the question that I want to ask other people. So they are all connected. They all could be one of their own entries because they were one long entry for
And
me.
that's very thoughtful. I love the way you do that.
Of course, yes. So the first question was, how do you define a generational wealth? Like, what does it mean to you?
Okay. And I don't mind. I know we were
Mm-hmm.
discussing about potentially reading exactly what I wrote and then kind of
Mm-hmm.
going into it. So I can definitely read what I wrote about it.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So the question was, what does generational wealth, what does it mean to you? To me, generational wealth means growing an abundance of assets that is able to be passed along freely to future generations. Generational wealth includes, but is not limited to, money, investments, fully paid for houses and cars, land, businesses, and companies that are flourishing and generating a surplus of revenue monthly and or annually. I'd also like to add that generational wealth includes the knowledge of maintaining that wealth properly. And that's what generational wealth means to me.
Oh, yes, you're my first guest that's actually read verbatim what they wrote. Thank you so much for that. I've been
Of
living
course.
for that moment, like praying for that. Oh,
Of
that's
course. I'm a
so
very
beautiful.
open person. I like to be open because, I'm working on building my own brand as well. So I like for people to know me for who I am.
Yes, I appreciate that. That is the transparency I have been praying for
Of
and
course.
want to set a platform for. So thank you so much for that.
Of course. My
I
pleasure.
I love it. I love that. That definition is so great, and I love how detailed you were with it. You were very, very detailed on what exactly it means.
Mhm.
Um, and it's very similar to mine. Not just having money that has longevity and is constantly creating other opportunities, but having the knowledge to maintain it. That is a whole different
Definitely.
pyramid, you know?
It's a lot.
And I think that is important to acknowledge because a lot of people are we all want our future and future generations and offspring to be secure financially, but I don't think a lot of us define what that means. Like we're earning, oh, so we get to take them to Disneyland, we get to take them do this. But how do you make it count? And I love that you wrote that. And I think it's very important, especially in this era where we're discussing manifesting more, to be that specific. That so if you're listening, if you're watching, that is how you manifest. That is how you make it. Make it specific. Make it specific. You have to be very intentional and specific with the universe. Oh, though.
Amen. That's the plan, to take you from this podcast and the universe make it happen.
Yes. Oh, that's so good. And so the knowledge, oh, that is oof. So financial literacy, not just chasing money, but making money follow you.
Exactly. Allowing your money to work for you because that goes
Mm,
into the next question, whenever we
mhm,
get there, with the grind culture. Like I feel like that's one of the things that we really had to learn is that you can work as much as you want to, but until
Mhm.
you learn how to utilize your money and allow that money to also go to work, you're gonna be working for the rest of your life.
Yes. Oh, you just I love that segue because that was gonna be my next question was if grind culture fits your definition of generational wealth.
Of course. And I can answer it. So what I wrote to that was, so the question is, do you feel grind culture aligns with your definition of generational wealth? And my answer to that was yes and no. I feel that the grind culture aligns with those who are first generation wealth builders,
Mhm.
and also breaking generational curses. Once you have a stable cash flow,
Mhm.
once you have a stable cash flow, and if you become fluent in investing, you'd be able to grow your assets with alternative means such as investing, side hustles, etc., where you don't necessarily need to grind as long as your money is grinding for you. So, if you're a first generation hustler, like we like to say, you're gonna have to grind a little bit. You're gonna have to put in a little bit of leg work, stack your money, get your money up. But then if you're willing to continue that hustle and use that money that you're making instead of just spending it on whatever you want, clothes, shoes, chains, cars, and things like that, instead of spending it, if you take that money and start putting it to work for you, then the money will start working more and you'll have to grind less, so
Mm.
you won't be having your 40 hour a week job that you're working, it could turn into 30 hours and then 20 hours. The more your money is working, the more you create side hustles, businesses, and things like that, you can grind less. And I also believe, that's where a team comes in. That's one thing I'm working on. That's a shameless plug. I'm looking to build a
Mhm.
team. I'm trying to build a team, because I have my finance degree. I know a lot about finance. I know a lot about investing. It's just, once I have a stable team, and we're able to grow together,
Mhm.
the more people that have their money in a pot, the more it can work for you. That's how hedge funds work, banks work. That's how all these financial institutions work. Instead of the people at the top grinding, they collecting all this money and they're putting that money to work to generate more money.
Mhm. Oof, I love it. We are just like on the same wavelength.
Yeah,
So
I know
on
you
my
you on your team too.
on my Facebook page, you guys should follow it. It's Verbal Tea on Facebook.
Mhm,
I discussed it just a little bit about community being
mhm,
part of success, being part of wealth. It's not sustainable by yourself. You do need the community and collaboration. So I love that you discuss wanting to build a team and how that makes it more effective and makes it go further and
mhm.
it makes it stronger.
Amen. Because and like you mentioned earlier, in the world of manifesting, like we've been talking about, the more the more energy you have that's going towards something, the more likely it will be to succeed or flourish or come to, real life. That's why you see a lot of major actors, a lot of influencers. What do you see? They're always connecting. They always end up
Mm,
together. Like Kai Cenat, he always end up having a lot of big influencers around him. They're channeling all of their energy into growing their brand, growing the things that they're doing. And then when they start doing their own thing, it's already in motion. It's already flowing, and they can keep growing and keep building. So, that team is
yep,
important.
exactly. I mean, it's Sunday, so I'm just gonna do it as a preacher's kid. You know, they say where what is it, two or three are gathered, there I am in the midst. Everybody
Mhm,
has their different definitions of divinity or don't believe in it at all. But
mhm,
what that scripture really does mean is this, there is power in us being together and being unified in our thoughts and our intentions. That's what that means. That's always
mhm.
how I've interpreted it ever since I was a child because I'll see a few people collaborate and it shifts the whole room. It shifts the whole dynamic of anything.
Exactly, and they just kinda go up from there.
Yes. Didn't mean to get, didn't
And
mean to get on the
you're
pulpit.
perfect it's perfectly fine. I definitely believe in God. I'm non-religious, but I do believe in God. I believe God is real. So yeah, so I definitely enjoy
Yeah.
scriptures. I enjoy things that promote, the furtherance of us.
Yes, I that looking beyond ourselves. Like we reach inside to be honest about ourselves so that we can have a bigger impact and not be preoccupied with ourselves. That is what I've learned is that the people that are super self-absorbed and concerned with themselves are actually running from themselves.
Mm,
The people
definitely.
the people who have strong, secure inner voices and know who they are, those are the people that are just that give, that pour out and have a magnificent impact to those around them because they're not preoccupied with trying to find out where they fit in.
Amen to that.
And that's why I like journaling because I'm my most secure when I'm staying on top of it. All
And
right.
that's one thing I've been working on as well. Like you said, staying on top of it.
Yes, and this is holding me accountable. I've written these entries before, but I told you when we met, every time I meet a new guest, it just inspires me. And so I revisit the topic and it kind of hits different a year later. I'm not gonna lie.
I believe exactly what you're saying. That's why I say, writing music to me is kind of like journaling. You know, how can I say this without sounding crazy? But like I go back, to songs that I've written last year and the year before, and I like reread them or try to sing them and things like that. And
Mhm.
it'll be words in the song that I'm seeing like today, and I'm like, oh wow, I really manifested that, or I said that, and it's happening. Like a lot of things that I said a year ago, I'm reading it, and it's like it's hitting me like, oh wow, like I really knew some stuff back then, and I can see how it's still growing and happening. So like you say, it does hit different a year later.
Oh, that makes me you just inspired me. I'm gonna have to do a series on rap and affirmation and manifestation because that is what it is.
That
um,
definitely.
I could go on. I know when I was younger and I grew up Christian, so it was
Mhm.
jazz, church music, and then anything else was the devil's music.
Oh wow! So you say you were a preacher's kid, right?
Yes, yes, my
Yeah.
father's a pastor, so
Okay, I understand that completely.
when I would listen to secular music, uh, I would feel like it didn't have depth because Christian music is all about divinity. It's
Mhm.
all about God. So there's always just this huge, deep layer to it. And I'm like, oh, I used to say this rap is just ego masturbation until I learned. I know. That's what, like 11-year-old me used to say.
I'm sorry. That's gonna be my new. I just learned a new word, a new phrase rather. I gotta write that down. I like
uh,
that.
I was a pretty pretentious kid, okay?
That is too ego masturbation.
Oh man.
Don't be surprised if you see that popping up on TikTok. Like, don't be ego masturbating. Don't.
Oh man, that's what I
No.
used to think it was until I really understood our history. Like once I started to understand our history, it meant something different to me. I was like, "Oh, celebrating ourselves was the biggest act of resistance. Still is.
Mhm.
The biggest act of resistance." So saying, you got this and you are this, you're the best at this, that was just us acknowledging the power within us that the world did not want us to know. And so
Mm.
that made me appreciate rap in a whole nother way. I mean, appreciate it in general, because at first it's just like I'm listening to music that's always talking about God and looking outside, but not realizing that oppression makes us want to only look from power outside and not realize the power within. And that's really what rappers are still to this day doing, is just trying to tap into that. This
Exactly. And I feel like that's one of the biggest things I've been learning about myself. And I feel like that's what they say you're waking up or
Mhm,
awake or what is when you start. And that's why, I don't associate myself with the word humble anymore. I used to always talk about, oh, I'm humble, I'm humble.
mhm,
I read the definition and I started realizing like I don't want to be humble. I want to love myself. I want to know myself. I want to celebrate myself the same way I celebrate other people, the same way I do for others. I need to know that it's okay to say, "Hey, you're good. You're great. You're amazing. You're wonderful." Like they're really hype myself up, so to speak, and
Mhm.
ego masturbate. To really put myself on a pedestal, knowing that I'm a great individual. I'm a great human being. I do great things. I don't have to walk around like, I'm almighty and I'm greater than God. But as a person who's supposed to be made in God's image, I am great. And like you said, I feel like that's a key to, financial freedom.
Oof, that you just I like how you just put it back, and that yes,
Definitely.
that is definitely a part of my definition of generational wealth, because knowledge and financial literacy is part of that knowledge pyramid, but so is self-empowerment. So is
Mm,
feeling safe and secure, because if you
yes,
don't, you can squander that. We see it all the time.
all
We
the time.
we see people all the time make more money than most people will ever see and squander it, or don't even live long enough to enjoy it,
Don't
mismanage
have it
it.
set up. Exactly. A
Ugh,
lot of a lot of a lot of sports players, I'm glad
yes.
that culture is changing. I know there's like a sports podcast that I think Fred Taylor is on and a couple
Mhm,
other individuals, and like they're really getting into the weeds of, just trying to teach the younger people like, hey, you like think wiser with your money that you're making.
mhm. And it comes from all of those other things that aren't really connected to money, but they are. How we feel about ourselves, what we've experienced in our childhood, how our relationships are going, do impact how we navigate money.
Mm, all of that. Yes, I agree fully. Because one of the worst phrases I've ever heard is that money is the root of all evil.
Mhm,
And people when you say that, people try to change it. Well, it's not money, it's the love of money. But it's like, how does one not focus on acquiring money and acquiring wealth, considering that the world is ran off of that? If we ever get to the age where the world is ran based on how God wants it to be ran, which I believe is, all of these things are here for us for free, but that's another
mhm.
conversation. But for right now, we gotta get it how we live. So it's not that people love money and are so hungry for money, is the fact that that's what it takes to live freely. Like you like the same people that say money is the root of all evil is the same people that say, "Oh, you got to work to survive." No, I'm working to get money. The money is what I use to survive. So
Mhm.
in reality, like you're kind of conflicting and confusing me by telling me money is the root of all evil and then telling me that I gotta go to work.
Yeah, they try to say that because they don't wanna acknowledge the real monsters of the world. It's
Mm, mm,
because
yes.
we're going to exchange currency even if the dollar fell. We will always exchange currency, even if it's bartering, which I would love, or something else. We're going to exchange currency. Money is a
You broke up a little bit. I'm
concept.
not I'm not sure what you said.
Oh,
You said we're
I
gonna
said we're
exchange money even if what?
even if it's not a dollar, if it's not the dollar, we're going to exchange
Oh, okay,
currency.
yeah.
Currency is something we are always going to exchange. That's just the law. Like that's the law of the world. You you give something, you take something. Everything has to be reciprocal.
Mhm.
It's our relationship with it. It's how we navigate it. And that is why I just wanted to do this series so much, because our lives, I don't want to say they revolve around money, but money gives us access to certain things, and we have a relationship with it whether we want to admit it or not. Like
Exactly.
you could be anti-capitalist, and things like that, but you still have to find a way to support yourself, to support your family. And
Exactly.
and if
If you
you
wanna change it, you gotta have the money to be able to change it.
Exactly, and then you have to develop a relationship. You could develop your boundaries. Our first guest discussed how she's paid her debt to society, and so now she's about to use the rules to her advantage. But like
Mhm.
she talked about that, like you have to be strategic about it, and it doesn't become evil unless you're roaming around aimlessly.
Mm, I like
That
that.
that's when it becomes evil, and you become consumed with it because you haven't defined the terms.
Mm,
If you're just going with the flow and just chasing it, it kind of makes money seem like the new cotton when you're doing it that way.
I like that. I like that you said that. And I was actually listening to a TED talk earlier today, and it was about the financial mistakes that people keep making. And the guy actually was saying that he was saying, once he was able to put a purpose on why he was making money and why he had money and what he was going to do with his money, that
Mhm.
is when he was able to start building financial wealth and really start building his assets to a level where he can pass them down to his kids and his future generations.
Yeah, once you get that why, then it's over, you know?
Yes,
It's
ma'am.
all yours. But if you don't establish that why, then you are just a pawn in in capitalism.
And I love chess. Chess is one of my favorite games.
Yeah, it's a great game. It never gets old, and it's always relevant when you're talking about the world and how we navigate it.
Definitely. Definitely. There's some people that's playing checkers and there's some people that's playing chess.
I see. I'm not a fan of the saying, but the concept is still very true.
Definitely.
Too many people say it, and it's not that deep. Uh, but okay, so my next question is about we've talked about grind culture. We've kind of talked about parenting a bit and how it ties into um generational wealth.
Mhm.
But did um did being a parent change your philosophy on money and generational wealth? And if so, how?
Okay. And I can read that and then we can kind of go into it. Excuse me. Sorry, I have a back pain, so I might have to stretch and move a little bit.
Okay, yeah.
And so he said, and I can read. So I can read the question that you sent, and then I think you
Sorry.
froze. Oh,
Yeah. Okay. Could you say that again for me?
I was said. So I can read what I wrote to the question that you sent, and then if you want to re-ask what you said, we can do that as well.
Okay.
Okay. So the question that you sent was, "How has being a parent impacted your philosophy on money?" And my response was, "Kids are their own bill." I am learning to be more responsible with my money, considering I am the provider and caretaker for my child. I understand that in order to give my daughter and her kids the best life possible, I'll have to learn as much as I can about making money efficiently, saving money, and growing money.
Mm.
So that's one of the things, when I first had my daughter, I've always been a hustler. I've always been a grinder. I've been working since I was 8 years old.
Oh,
Like I was cutting
man.
grass. I wish I would have knew what to do with the money back then. I probably, but I've always, been hustling my whole life. So, you know, I grew up without a father. So I had to,
Mm,
kind of be the man in the house early. And I've always told myself that no matter what, I'll always be in my kid's life. So I never wanted money to be the reason why I wasn't able to be in my kid's
mhm,
life efficiently and effectively. So especially when I had my daughter, once I had my daughter, it was like, okay, I really gotta grind. I really gotta get
mhm,
out here, make things happen. I'm bringing a daughter into the world. You know, I want her to be able to do what she wants to do. So my daughter, she plays sports, she does soccer, she does gymnastics.
mhm,
She's done a lot of things. She's been like I was in the military for a little bit, so she's been to Seattle. That's where she was born at. She's driven across the country with me, and I've been able to do things with her, like take her to Disney World and things like that. So it's just understanding that, I want my kid to have the best life possible, to be able to live and not worry. And I also, when she grows up, I want her to not have to think of what I want her to not have to think about where her checks are going to come from and worry about
mhm.
money per se, to just be able to go out and live. She wants to be an influencer, she wants to be a gamer, a gymnast, a soccer player, whatever she wants to do in life, like she can just focus on that and not have to worry about money. So
Okay, I love that. So it probably shifted your hustle to instead of you being financially secure, um, building something so that she can be financially independent.
exactly. Yes, ma'am. Definitely.
I love that. And how old is she?
She's 7. She'll be 8
Oh.
in April 7th.
Oh, okay, so very soon, very
Yeah.
soon. Oh, that is so
Yeah.
beautiful. She's so young and she's already had such a full life, a full experience. And that that right there is for to me that's generational wealth. Not just having the funds, but absolutely having the funds, but having
Mhm.
the memories, having that secure attachment. Like this is what my daddy did, or this is what my mother did, or like this is what I've gotten experience since I was a kid. So my standard of life is going to be different. I was born to thrive, and that's what I want my children to know. They were born to thrive, not to
Yes, ma'am.
survive.
For sure, definitely. I like that. Born to thrive, not to survive, because we've been
Yeah.
surviving our whole lives.
that that part, we were born to thrive. I love that my daughter, she thinks we make a lot of money. Like
I feel that. How old is your daughter?
she's 5.
Okay, I feel that. Yeah, my daughter's the same way. For some reason, kids think we're rich. It's like, no, I've been working.
I'm like, you know what? You keep saying that. You keep manifesting it. She manifested her brother, so just let her say it.
Uh,
But it's love that because what she wants, needs, she gets. You know, we make
yes,
sure
ma'am.
that we allot it and we budget for that because that's what it's about. It's about
Definitely.
building building that cushion, that savings, but also building those memories. So when they have their money, they're not just blowing it all on their friends or anything like that because they know what real relationship looks like, real support looks like, and love looks like.
Exactly.
And that is just I had my daughter first, so as a black woman, I know that we compromise our economic mobility a lot for relationships. So I'm like
Which
really, I'm sorry.
you said you compromise your economic relationships?
Oh no, our economic
Economic
mobility
mobility. What you
for
mean by that?
for relationships. Um, it's not that we marry people that make less than us. It's just how we carry it. We don't carry it effectively. Like we don't really propel the people the people that we bond with. We kind of just drain everything. We don't do it effectively. Like there's a way to build into someone who may make less than you or have less than you, but we don't do that. And
Mm,
we don't
that's
and
that's interesting. I've never heard that. So, and when you say drain, what do you mean by that? Could you kind of elaborate on that if you don't mind?
just blowing it all, just without building something for ourselves. And that's why we
Mm,
go again and pursue another degree and another business because we just burnt ourselves out and ran ourselves dry by pouring into the community. And
oh, okay, okay, that makes sense.
there no, we are charitable and there is no way we're going to ever stop giving. It's just we don't have secure attachment styles. It really comes to those attachment styles and being able to identify what we should pour into and how, and creating those boundaries.
Mm.
It's
I'm glad you said that. I'm
mm,
glad you said that because I agree. I agree, and I can see that. I can see, because even speaking, from relationship standpoints and family standpoints, when it comes to Black women, it's like I was raised by all women, so
mm,
I've seen it a lot. Like you say, they're always pouring out and pouring into everything and everybody else, but they're not doing it from a stable foundation.
yeah, and I mean, there's a lot to be said about it. Like it's the beauty of the Black woman, the original woman, truly, because how can you be that charitable? you know, but also this is the world we live in, so we have to find a way to invest and pour into others and make it sustainable,
Mm,
sustainability. And not really, it's not just financial literacy because actually a lot of Black women are very financially literate. it's those it's those wounds, it's those childhood wounds. And
I feel like I will say I feel like as a Black community, we
mhm,
struggle with financial literacy. I will say that, and it's because we're hustlers. We know how to make money.
mhm,
I feel like where the ball is dropped is using that money to make more money. I feel like that's where the ball gets dropped at a lot,
Okay.
because I know so many people like, and I talk to my friends and people about this all the time, especially when it comes to hourly jobs. Like I tell my
Mhm.
friends, like, why would you ever take a job making $12 an hour when we've been making more than that our entire lives? Just as kids, we were like playing shooting basketball trying to make money, like we do $5 a shot. If you make $20 in 10 minutes, and you don't make no more money, you just made $20 an hour. But so we can always make the money and get the money, but we never really know, okay, now that I got the money, what can I do with it? So it keeps
Mm.
growing, building that compound interest, or investing in the stocks and things like that. It's more so, okay, I made the money. All right, let me go spend it. Let me go get some shoes. Let me go buy this. Let me go take this girl out to lunch. It's like, let me just keep spending this money that I'm continuously making. And I feel like that's where in the Black community and the Black culture is dropped a lot. Is we
Mm.
all can make money. We all hustlers. Like every Black person got a hustle. You got some type of hustle. Like they gonna make ends meet. But
Mhm.
how do we get from just making ends meet to, okay, I can make ends meet and I can make more money? I think that's where we lack at a lot.
I agree, and I do think it roots from a lot of systemic things that we are always trying to compensate for, that we don't need to compensate for at all.
Definitely.
The previous episode that I had, and you guys should listen to it, I was talking to a funeral director, and he discussed how people attach themselves to things. And once you stop attaching yourself to things,
Mm,
that changes the game, that changes how you operate with money.
I agree 100%.
um, did you need to get that?
Oh yes, I'm sorry. Can you hear that?
Yes,
Oh,
I can, and it's
I'm
okay.
sorry.
Go ahead and get
Okay.
it, and I could just have my husband edit this part out. Go ahead and
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I just
mhm.
my daughter is calling.
Yes, a parent always has to have their phone on. I know it.
Yes.
Okay, so my next question for you is, what choices do you make to cultivate generational wealth?
And I love this question. And this is one of the questions that I journaled about. And I do think it they had me thinking. So I wrote, I grind. In reference to one of the earlier questions. But one of the biggest choices I've made is to continue to expand on my knowledge. While I am building multiple businesses and in the process of creating side hustles, I do my best to learn as much as I can about finance, investing, business, and wealth. I read books such as Principles by Ray Dalio. He's a billionaire hedge fund investor. I love the book Principles. It's taught me a lot. 50 Cents, Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter, The Richest Man in Babylon, Think and Grow Rich, etc.
Mhm,
So a lot of finance books, great topics. They're definitely recommended by some of the wealthiest people in the world. And if there's ever a term that I hear in relation to finance, money, or whatever the case may be that I am not too familiar with, I'll go on Investopedia to research it. So that's something that I'm very big into is education, learning. So I also have my finance degree and securities licenses.
mhm,
So I believe that is one of the biggest steps that I've made, one of the biggest choices that I've made to cultivate generational wealth is to learn about it and not
mm,
just, go based off what I see or what I may know. A lot of people that I know around me do that. They go based off what I heard this or I heard that, or, but I'm more so, no, let me go find the richest people in the world, the people who are successfully doing it and still doing it to this day. Let me
mhm,
study them. Let me read what they're doing. Ray Dalio, like I want to do a hedge fund. Ray Dalio has a $1 billion hedge fund. So it'd be best to go pick up his book,
right.
look at his company, study the things that he's doing to really figure out, okay, how can I cultivate real generational wealth?
Oof, I love that. I love that you're a student, so it's not just like
Definitely.
a casual browser. You're like, "Oh, I wanna do this. Oh, I wanna get an LLC," not knowing how that is gonna impact me tax-wise or anything, you know what I
Exactly.
mean? Yes, I love that, so that when you're making these steps, they are measured,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
And that's what I like to do too. I like to read on it, and I like to take measured steps based on what I actually know.
Mm.
Like, I am not just gonna try something. I'm not falling for a cash app glitch or anything like that.
The money glitch.
Oh my
Definitely.
gosh.
And that's one thing, I feel like for people like myself and you, when it comes to, finance, it's good to have conversations like this with people who are really students of the
Mhm.
finance world and not just people who want to make money or trying to, make a quick dollar. Because like, I have conversations with people quite often in regards to, finance and building wealth. And I'll be hesitant to talk because it's like they talking like, oh, I know this happens, this is how it works, and I'm just like, I don't want to say you're wrong, but according to this person who's a billionaire who really does it, like, no, this is how it really works.
Yeah, like, you can only YouTube University so much.
And that's one of my favorite places to go to, but I always like trust but verify. I definitely YouTube
Yeah.
University, and then I'll go to the people who are practicing these things and see, okay, is this something that they're utilizing in their business and their practice and the things that they're doing as well?
Exactly, and we just can't be one dimensional. That's with everything, and especially with finance. You can't just
Mm,
have one source, and you can't look at it through one lens. You need to get a well-rounded idea of it, and it's going to take time. Like, it takes
definitely.
time, and I think grinding culture, it makes people afraid to take time. Um, they gotta make money now, and it's gotta make money for me right now.
Right today.
And then I don't wanna be shady, I don't know, but then they're promoters, and then that's just it's sketchy. So
And I get people that do that to me all the time, because like even with like my friends and family, it's like, when it comes to finance and building money and investing, I'm like, look, I know what I'm doing. Like we can really start growing up in life and doing things better if y'all just get behind me and trust that I know what I'm doing and work with me. But they're like, well, why can't you show us this? Why don't you have this? Or, like they start questioning the things I have and don't have. And then, you know, they start basing it off like their one source. Okay, well, I seen this, I'm gonna try to run with this. And it's like, no, like you said, it takes time. We have to build it. If we really want to do something serious and make a change, it's something that we really have to build and put emphasis and effort into growing
mhm.
and learning.
Yeah, it's a marathon, and my mother has, she's really into investing and things like that, and that's what I've learned from her and her coaches and the book she's referenced. For me, it's a marathon. It's not an instant, "Oh, make 100K in 100 days." Like, that's not how that works.
Exactly. Like unless you got that money hack or money glitch.
Right, and you have to have money. So if you don't already have the fundamentals on just how to save with what you got, you gotta start there. You have to start there because you're gonna have to you need some money to make it. So if you don't even know.
Unless you have a team, then it's
Yeah.
possible. Like you said, you do need money. You need a little bit of money, but I feel like that's where that education comes in. That's why I'm
Mhm,
learning the education part because granted, I don't come from a long line of wealth, but I
mhm,
understand that if you know what to do with the wealth, there's
mhm.
investors out there that's willing to give you the money to
Yep.
invest it. So that's the part I've been working on is okay,
Okay.
you have a lot of money. You don't know what to do with it because you just know how to make money. I know what to do with the money.
And that's a whole other skill set. But there's so many
Definitely.
different ways, and I want us to have more conversations about it and be honest. That's
Definitely.
another thing. People don't wanna talk about their L's or anything like that, and it's a marathon, it's a journey just like anything we pursue.
For sure. That it is 100% a marathon. It's not a sprint at all.
Yeah, so me personally, I've just been doing baby steps, okay? I've got, my 401k to make sure everything's cool with life insurance, all that. And then I have an IRA that like I invest in and so
Mhm,
that's an up and down thing. I think I'm starting to get the rhythm of it. That's all I've got right now. Um
mhm.
my mother is trying to teach me how to do some other stuff. I haven't done it yet. It's just still absorbing the information before I take that step. So right now, My kids are set for after I'm gone for if
That's
and
really good.
so that's what I've got so far after I'm gone, and I'll be able to pour into them a little bit once they graduate and like are adults. That's where
Mhm.
I am right now. But I want to take
And
it
that's a
further.
blessing. That's an amazing start. Like you're definitely on the correct and right path, you know. I feel like that's, one of those things that a lot of people don't realize is, when your kid turns 18, that shouldn't be the start of them working. That should be the start of them experiencing life and, making the
Mhm.
decisions, whether it's college or whatever the case may be, to where they can really get their feet under them.
Yep.
Like myself, when I turned 18, it was okay. How am I going to just do things? Oh, I got to go to the military to pay for college. Like I
Mhm.
really had to figure out different ways to do the things that I wanted to do, which could have been easier, had a stable foundation had been set, or like the investments were in the right place. Like, if you start investing now for your kids, by the time
Mhm.
they're 18, they'll have 100,000, 200,000 put away.
Yep, exactly. And that's where I'm at. I want to do more. I want to diversify my financial portfolio a bit
Mhm.
more. But those are the things I know what I'm doing in, and that's what I'm doing so far.
And that's
And
it.
and
And
that's
that's
for,
so amazing.
so I'm a little proud, but still just hungry. So the other things I do is just building a relationship with them. Like I do work a 9 to 5 and I am doing creative pursuits, but I want to do both so they know that life doesn't have to just be one way, that
Mhm.
they get to dictate the terms. And I record on Sundays so that I'm not taking too much time away from them so I can still have that, because that is another thing I've seen and experienced is while we're grinding and while we're hustling, sometimes we don't get to connect with our children as though they're like, I don't care about this money. I'm looking for my mother and all of my, romantic partners. I'm looking for my father and my friends and things like that. So I'm trying to like do a balance and I'm exhausted, but I'm
I feel
motivated.
that. I feel that completely, and that's the perfect. That's why I grind, and that's why I'm working on building that generational wealth. As for me, I never want my kids to work. That's my goal. Like I don't want
Yeah.
my kids to have to ever work. Like I really don't care if they go to college. Like I just want them to be able to live life freely and know that, hey, I've successfully achieved enough wealth to where if you decide you want to work, if you decide you want to go to college, if you decide whatever you want to do in life, go do it and not don't worry about where money gonna come from. Go be an actor if you want to be an actor. Go be
Yeah.
a football player, a basketball player. Like I really want them to be able to chase their dreams freely without the thought of money. Because I feel like for me, that's where, a lot of, I will say, wanting to make money and not knowing how to utilize it, it
Mm,
was a lot of my downfall, and why I stopped chasing my dreams and my goals, because I've always loved sports. I've always loved music. I've always wanted to do that. But you know I just always thought that I needed to make money. I put money over my creative side. Like you said, you're doing that creative side
mm,
too. I feel like I put making money over my creative side. So a lot of the things I wanted to do in life, since I wasn't making money right away from it, I was like, okay, well, I got to go do these other things that I really don't want to do and try to
mm,
make some money. Like in high school, I was working jobs instead of playing sports and bettering my basketball game and things like that. And then I went to the military. I instead of writing music and playing sports like I wanted to do, I still wrote music and wrote songs, but I was working all the time. I had multiple jobs and things, so it's just like
no.
I never got to tap into my creative side and my passionate side, the thing, and do the things that I love, which is what I'm doing now in my older age. It's like you say, I'm balancing, being a father, making money, and being creative with the podcast, with my music. I want to get into acting and things like that. So I'm just really tapping into that creative side, but like I said, balancing it now.
Oof. So we're on the same time because that's what I'm doing. My whole life has been kind of rolling with the punches and surviving. And
Yes,
so
ma'am.
I've always had this creative itch and never really indulged in it the way I'm sure I was meant to. So this year, that's what this year is about, and forevermore,
And
it's
I
it's
love that.
doing so and setting up a foundation for my kids to be able to do that, just do that.
That's my goal. Like I say, to just create. If you want to play video games all day, go ahead. Quite frankly, I
Yes.
tell people like people talk about people that play video games, but it's people making big bank playing video games, and I know I'm very good at video games.
Mhm.
Alright, I need me a couple checks.
Oh, my nephews are all about that. And so, I got one of them the whole little setup with the green screen and the ring light and all that so
That's
they
so
could
awesome.
stream. Because I mean, that's the way of the world now. So if that's how they feel, they're convicted in that. Why not? They're young. Why not just
Why not?
pour into it?
If a kid can go on YouTube and make $5 million a year just reviewing toys, like
Right.
why why not? Like like you say, like people, talk about it because they don't understand it. But I'm trying to learn. How did you do that? Like, how did you make $5 million a year just posting toys on YouTube? Like, I got 1,000 toys in my house right now.
I'm saying, okay.
Like,
But
my kids don't even play with toys no more. They watch other people play with toys on YouTube.
listen, that's the same thing. Or my daughter likes to make videos now too, and
That's
she
awesome.
likes to create things, but they don't really play with their toys. They just mess up the house with them, and I'm like, you guys, okay, okay.
Toys everywhere, but not one of them played with.
No, except for imagination. That's the one time they'll play with them for
Mhm.
pretending some crisis is happening with some friends, but that's about it. Um,
Definitely.
Well, this conversation has been so, 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 so enriching. And this is just, I want to say thank you so much for being part of our final episode of this series. Honestly, this has inspired me. This conversation has inspired me a lot to maybe do this series again sometime later on in the podcast because finances is such a layered thing. But before you
Definitely.
go, I do want you to just get on your podium. We have a segment called Something to Sip On, and that's where you kind of just preach to the audience and tell them something, just a good little nugget that they can take with them. So let
Oh,
me introduce our next segment, Something to Sip On.
that was the
Shout out to my husband for the graphics and the music. So, when it comes to generational wealth, what is something that you would like to leave our audience with? What is something you want them to sip on?
That's a great question. Something I would love to leave the audience with is learn how to make your money work for you. Don't work for your money. In the beginning, when you're working your 9 to 5, when you're working your jobs, you're going to be making money. Before you go spend it, research. Follow me. Follow the Verbal Tea podcast. There is so many people out there who are legitimately showing you ways that instead of going to buy Nike, buy Adidas, buy Jordans, instead of going to spend your money, there are so much more ways where you can take that money and invest it and generate a return before you spend your money. And then you can take the interest that you're making off your investments and spend that on whatever you want. So it's like
Ooh.
you're getting a paycheck, using that to get another paycheck, and then you can blow that paycheck and not have to worry about not having any money sitting to the side, earning your residual income.
Ooh, that is something to sip on. That's some hot tea right there.
Definitely. I'm all about the residual income, the interest. I'll just leave you with this last tidbit. Working in finance, I've worked for three of the top major investment and banking firms in the world, Bank of America, Merrill, Citigroup, SoFi, and I've seen where people are generating 200,000 interest a month, 20,000 interest a month. So like that's a check you can blow and not have to worry about it. Like you can just take that and spend it on whatever you want, but you still got 100,000 sitting in the bank.
Mm. You heard it here first from someone who's seen the accounts,
Trust me, I've
okay?
seen I've seen the numbers. That's why I'm so passionate about. When I touch 100,000, 200,000, like I'm never working again because I know what to do with it. I know how to make it stretch. So
Yes, I love it. Thank you so much for being here with us. Before you go, I just want you to reiterate for our audience where people can find you.
Of course. So my name is A1. My name is Ashton, but I go by A1. You can find me on all social media, all platforms at A1 Lifestyle, A1 God's Visionary, and then the podcast that I've been working on building and creating, the A1 Lifestyle Podcast. So it's the number one lifestyle podcast, and that's on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you want to go, you name it. I actually have some episodes coming out about finance, about how I broke into the corporate finance world after applying for Bank of America 10 times. Before I got my licenses, I finally took the SIE, the Securities Industry Essentials, and I was able to, break into the corporate world. So you can find me
Mm.
everywhere, A1 Lifestyle Podcast.
Yes, tune into that. Become a scholar. If you learn nothing else from this episode, please know to be a scholar. Be a
Yes.
scholar, be a student so you can write the rules, okay?
That be a student of the game.
Thank you so much for being on today and being so honest and transparent with us and so dynamic. And of course, Tea Party, if you were inspired by this podcast and you want to share something with us, you can share it at verbalteaparty@gmail.com. And you can also follow us anywhere at Verbal Tea Time. Thank you. I hope you guys were inspired by this, motivated, and empowered. And we'll see you next week. Bye.
Amen. Thank you so much.